Oh, Nebraska, the quarterback room is thinner today.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, DP here. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And for you everydayers, thank you very much for being a part of what we do. If you're not an everydayer, click the subscribe button and we'll give you the shout out. As a matter of fact, put your comments down there in the comment section if you're an everydayer. We'll give you a shout out. I'll put those into the next episode. I want to thank the folks from Built. Now, here's where this is, right? If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices, and I do, but you don't want to compromise taste, which I don't, I've got the thing just for you. Built Bars and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy and taste amazing. Seriously, they taste so amazing that you won't think they're good for you. You got to try it. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in, grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, Brownie Batter Puff and Churro Puff. You can thank me later. It's always funny that people forget. Spring practice guarantees you several things. And over the course of this episode, we'll talk about some of those things. One, the reevaluating and reassessment of the talent on your roster. It allows the coaches to see what talent they have, how they interact, how they take on the challenge of playing in front of a crowd, playmaking out of the scripted situations that they normally practice in. But then after that, after seeing this, then the evaluation and reevaluation happens. Reassessment has to happen. And what that means is in some of the rooms, especially at Nebraska, when you're over the scholarship count, some of the rooms have to thin out. They have to thin out. Well, the first domino to fall happened yesterday. And I've said all along on this podcast that Richard Torres, when I watch the quarterbacks work, Richard Torres has as much arm talent as anybody on the roster, or as anybody that was on the roster. The ball came off his hand a little better, a little more crisp. And I thought from an athletic standpoint that he was going to be able to do all the things that Marcus Satterfield and Matt Rhule wanted from the quarterback position. Now, what also happened is the emergence of Jeff Sims as legitimate front runner, sans Casey Thompson on the sideline. But we have to pay attention because based on what the coaches saw, decisions are being made behind closed doors about who the quarterbacks are going to be in that room going forward. Now, we haven't heard anything on Casey Thompson, but we did get to see Jeff Sims. We did get to see his performance. We did get to see his athleticism. We did get to see his delivery. And again, 9 for 13, those are good numbers. He's efficient. He was effective. He was accurate. But was he good enough? Was he good enough for the staff to feel like they need Casey or they don't need Casey? Don't know. But what I know is this. I knew that Richard Torres had coaches around the country who were intrigued by him. Richard Torres is not going to have any problems finding a home to play quarterback. It's just he'll be just fine. Then it becomes a matter of how many quarterbacks that are currently in the room are going to be kept. And we don't know that answer, but we got the answer. One was that Torres was out. After a 2-for-9 performance, Heinrich Harburg, who the coaches have just glowed over, they glowed about him, seemed to be comfortable and safe. Then the question becomes Chubba Purdy and Logan Smothers. Now, we did not see Logan Smothers on Saturday, but we have enough tape on Logan Smothers to have some understanding of what's in play. My concern is that probably one more quarterback is going to have to leave the room in order for the room to be settled. Not sure which quarterback it's going to be, but it's going to happen. In another room, Victor Jones Jr., wide receiver, entered the transfer portal. In a very crowded room where special teams will play, and this is coming from players and coaches, that special teams will dictate a lot of these rooms and how they reassess themselves and reline up. That when these depth charts are there, it's there to tell you a player's value to the team. And if you're not in the top 4 or 5 kick and punt returners as a receiver, it's pretty difficult to just hold that spot and hold that scholarship and use that. Now, I would almost be willing to bet that another wide receiver leaves the room. And that, as Terrell Farley said yesterday, he thinks receiver 1A or 1B is required. Like another top receiver is required, and that in the transfer portal, as it becomes active, that another receiver comes in, at least another receiver. The same could be said for the tight end room. I mean, Nate Borkature was the most impressive tight end on Saturday, but he's not under scholarship. Now, they may change that, they may not, don't know. But with Arik Gilbert and Thomas Fidone, A.J. Rollins is under scholarship, even though he has moved over to the defensive side of the ball, and he's done really well on the defensive side of the ball. But Jake Applegate is also there under scholarship. Like, I would imagine that another tight end is probably in play. Running back room is very intriguing because it's full and it's deep. I'm still not sure who running back 1A is. Some days it's my feeling that it's Gabe Urban. Some days I think it's Anthony Grant. Some days I think it's Ramir Johnson. But that's a full room. And over the course of the next couple of days, as the transfer portal door opens and closes, there are some names that are going to be bandied about, and there's going to be some changes made to the roster here as well as everybody else. And the other side of this is you're having to have your eyes on other programs to see what players from other programs of your level and at positions of need jump into the transfer portal. Nothing is safe. Nobody is safe. Everybody's an option. You really the work to get to the best 85 is in full. It'll be a busy couple of weeks before the break. When we come back, I'll go to the other side of the ball because this whole transfer portal thing has had an impact on the defense. And it seems that the defense has adjusted better than the offense. We'll talk about that when we come back to Locked On Huskers. Thank you, gang. And again, I appreciate you. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. We're here in Lincoln, America. We did thaw out yesterday, finally from the frost of the weekend. But I want to thank you for spending time with me each and every day here on Locked On Huskers. I want to jump back into the transfer portal because the emergence of A.J. Rollins as a viable edge setter on defense is pretty impressive. It saves a room that could have been in trouble. You've got two young players who made their presence felt, and then you have leaders. You have Ty Robinson, who wasn't available. You had Luke Reimers, who was not available. You had Nick Heinrich, who was not available. So through all of what was going on, other players had the opportunity to step forward and get working, to get reps in, to get all the things in play, right? It was good to see the young players step up and get work done. It was good to see them take advantage of the situation and opportunity. It was good to see the coaching staff able to develop and to get these young players as a viable part of the defense. They took the lessons. They took the education. They took the install and were actually out there making plays. And defensively, again, if you made 18 tackles for losses, you were in the right place and you played with some forward aggression, which is important. And most importantly, impressive. But those rooms are full. And it's going to have to be changes made. They're going to have to be changes in those rooms. Now, we're not real sure what those changes are going to be. We don't know until folks jump into the portal, until folks talk about it. But we'll know more over the course of the next couple of days, and we'll cover it here on Locked On Huskers as we get the information. I think the big part for me is to look at the secondary, where there's just, I mean, you have 13 players. And yes, special teams is important and filling those spots. But that's a lot of scholarship money tied up into players whose primary focus is special teams. This secondary is 8 deep, 10 deep, 12 deep, depending on how you want to package them together. The safeties and the the rovers, like you've got, depending on how you want to break it down. But the flexibility and versatility of the players who could play both in a nickel, could play in a dime coverage, could play in a traditional set is helpful. And so that's 3 or 4 players who take up scholarships, and then the 4 starters who take up scholarships. The second group of players who take up scholarship, that puts you at 12, and you haven't considered special teams yet. So players like Noah Pola-Gates, this is a big week to sit back and find out, listen, did I put in enough work? Have I put in enough work to keep this spot? Or should I go somewhere else and get to work? The linebacker position, listen, the transfer portal was exceptional, has been exceptional. MJ Sherman looked like player one. He looked like the best player on the field. And that's not an easy thing to say. But to come out there and to be dominant in all of his responsibilities. I thought for a moment that we were going to see a bunch of players from the practice squad move up and take reps and then be a part of the conversation. I'm not sure that really happened because there's so much depth at the linebacker position. I'm not sure they're going to have to make changes. But the transfer portal, every program in the country is going to have people in the transfer portal this week. Every single one. So it doesn't matter what level, doesn't matter what position, they're all going to have people in the transfer portal. That's not just a Nebraska thing. And certainly it's not a Colorado thing. It's not an Iowa thing. It's everybody. And so as those names show up in the portal and those announcements are made, everybody considers, okay, is this somebody that can help my program? Is this somebody that's going to make us better? Is this person who's now in the portal better than the people we have? Do they fit? And when you're talking about players from Arizona State, you're talking about players from Washington State, Tennessee, Wake Forest, all with players who are jumping into the transfer portal. Colorado, look, I wouldn't be surprised if of the 41 players who have jumped in the transfer portal at Colorado under Deion Sanders, that 1 or 2 of them end up in Lincoln, Nebraska. There are some players who put up numbers in Colorado. They just don't fit the new regime. But if you've got Colorado on the schedule, you might want to stick your toe in the water. There are some receivers from Colorado. There's some linemen from Colorado. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. But also there's an eye towards Texas. And this Matt Rhule regime has made a point to be Texas friendly. They're getting commitments from the high school level from the state of Texas. And the Texas transfer portal is its own beast. Texas, Florida, California. Those are the ones. Georgia, if you want to throw that in there. Those are the ones where, oh my goodness gracious, when those names jump into the portal, you have to consider them. I mean, think about it. MJ Sherman, Elijah Judy, those are players who came in. Another defensive tackle from Georgia Tech jumped in the portal, got snatched up right away. Georgia's not done. Alabama's not done. Clemson's not done. TCU's not done. Texas A&M's not done. And the best grocery shopping is when it's fresh. And there's a lot of fresh opportunities coming up over the next couple of days here in the transfer portal. Nebraska will be active. Nebraska will be proactive in it. I'm positive that they've scanned rosters and have a pretty good idea about what rooms are going to be emptied up and by who. I expect some announcements. But also remember, for every player added to the roster, 2 have to be removed. 2 for the first 13 times you do it. You can add 13 players, but you're going to have to get rid of 26. That's how this works. And I think they have a plan. I think Matt Rhule has a plan. But it'll be an interesting, bumpy ride over the course of the next few weeks. We'll throw it a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about some other things going on around the football program. You know what? It's going to be a long spring. Hey, gang, once again, thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. And to you everydayers, my applause. Greatly appreciate you coming to hang out with us each and every single day. You are appreciated. If you have not subscribed, please do so. Go to the bottom. And then if you have thoughts on this episode or previous episodes, go ahead and put your comments down there and I'll get back to you. I'm more likely to get back to you if you say something really cool. Mean folks, not so much. That's just a statement. That's how I work. So as you target August 31st, I think Nebraska fans are going to have to be proactive in how they think about this season. There will be regular changes over the next couple of weeks, and then even more changes all the way up to summer camp. Let's not forget, for all the people that want to think about Nebraska's record and what's required, but game 1 is in Minneapolis against PJ Fleck and the Gophers, and there has not been that much success against PJ Fleck in Minnesota, not by Nebraska. Now, there is some advantage in having Matt Rhule and a new scheme and a new coaching staff and a new roster get its first look to Minneapolis that day. Like, there's not going to be a great amount of tape on Matt Rhule's Husker offense. Like, we don't know who the quarterback is or the running back or the receivers. We don't know who the linemen are going to be. We don't know what the 3-3-5 is actually going to be out there trying to generate. Marcus Satterfield has tape, but he doesn't have tape with this group of players. And remember, this group of players ain't going to be the group of players August 31st. Tony White and his defensive staff, this is a new staff, new scheme, new player personnel. And if you're PJ Fleck and the Gophers, you're trying to figure out exactly what is it that Tony White is going to try to do to us and who are the people involved. We don't know who the people are. That's why it's super intriguing. But as we find those things out, we'll report them and we'll sit and talk about them. But I'm just going to point out, this is way more about PJ Fleck in Minnesota than it is about Deion Sanders in Colorado. Husker fans are going to have to focus. And for all the distraction, all of the talk of the new mascot, all of the talk about Frank Solich's locker room, the reality is, and the real fans, while happy and approving of those two things, really have one focus and one priority, which is any of this stuff going to help us beat Minnesota? That's the focus. All of the work between now and August 31st is to simply go 1-0 against Minnesota. And all the other distractions, you got to put those down. Don't worry about what other folks are doing. Get the best 85 Huskers. Get the best 85 Huskers together. Get them on a roster and get them trained up and developed. Because nothing else matters. There's nothing more important to this program than beating Minnesota August 31st. And so all the other stuff, put it down, put it away. We'll talk about rosters. We'll talk about schemes. We'll talk about all that stuff this summer. But the reality is, it's not first home game. It's not Colorado. All of this is about beat Minnesota. And if it's not helping you, making you feel comfortable in beating Minnesota, that's not it. Focus. It's all about beat Minnesota. Every roster change, every transfer portal, beat Minnesota. That's it. So thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate it. Again, subscribe if you have not. And we'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.